Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Labor Day here on our Monday. Thanks for joining us here for another edition of our 10 Weather Impact Show. I'm meteorologist Aaron White, and it's been a fantastic day with sunshine, temperatures up in the 70s, getting closer to 80 here this afternoon. And you know what? We've had just really perfect weather here the last several days. Of course, over the weekend on Saturday, a lot of sunshine, perfect weather for the Buckeyes win. We had sunshine and temperatures up in the 70s. We had that again yesterday. And still looking great here for today. But things are going to start to change up later into the week. We got still some sunshine and low 80s here tomorrow, even into our Wednesday, but we are tracking rain, and we're also tracking some much cooler temperatures looking ahead to the end of the week and going into the upcoming weekend. So let's go ahead and dive into the forecast now as we talk about what's really going to be happening here over the course of the next several days. And also want to talk about September now that we're officially here into September. Today's the 1st, and we actually, unfortunately, continue to lose a lot of daylight here through the month. We actually lose over 70 minutes across the state of Ohio. Of course, going from the 1st to the end of the month, so days are getting shorter, as we know. As we reach the summer solstice back in June, we've been losing a couple of minutes of daylight each day, and we lose a lot of it here through the month of September. And that also is a sign that as the days are getting shorter, we're going to start to see some more cooler days as we get closer to the end of the month. Normal high for today is about 82 degrees, and that's close to where we will end up here this afternoon. But by the end of the month, we're actually seeing average highs down to about 72 degrees. So that drop coinciding with how much daylight we are losing here through the month. But right now, 77 degrees in downtown Columbus. Winds are light, and they will stay on the light side here for the rest of today. Not really seeing much humidity, but it has been rising the last couple of days and rising more so for today. So that is giving us a real feel a little bit higher, just 1 degree higher than the actual temperature. But just an indication when you see that feels like is higher than the actual temperature means there's a little bit of humidity around. Not a lot, but as that humidity will start to rise here going into tomorrow, into our Wednesday, it will help to be the fuel for some rain here by Wednesday night and Thursday. But no rain in the forecast here for the rest of your Labor Day. Whatever you have planned, if you're maybe doing a backyard barbecue later on this evening, it's going to be nice. We got a few clouds out there. Temperatures around 80 here by 5 p.m. and then gradually cooling down into the 60s here later on tonight, and we will be dipping into the 50s once again here during the overnight hours as we have those clear skies and light winds. But let's talk about the rain that we have in the forecast as we go into the middle of the week. And we're going to start to see those chances going up here by Wednesday, and really low chances, 30%. And this is going to be happening later in the day as we see our next weather maker arriving here, mainly for Wednesday night into Thursday. So we could see a couple showers Wednesday evening, but more of the rain is going to be happening overnight and throughout the day on Thursday. So when you see the forecast for temperatures on Thursday, going to be a lot cooler just because we have the clouds and the rain around throughout the day. And then chances really do taper off here going into Friday and for the weekend, really looking at drier conditions here by Saturday and Sunday. But as we go through the hour-by-hour forecast here today, really not tracking much aside from a few scattered clouds. That will be the case here even overnight tonight and going into tomorrow. Still just tracking a few scattered clouds here and there during the afternoon. Really not much happening here for today, tomorrow, even into the day on Wednesday, but that's when things do start to change. Here we are by 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. Really not tracking a lot. Some rain showers to our south, and some of that will start to build in here by Wednesday evening. Again, that's why we have that 30% chance for some showers, but notice it's not affecting everyone. So that's why it's at a 30% chance, because some areas will see a little bit of rain, and then by Thursday morning, rain overspreads the entire state of Ohio, and it could be heavy at times where we see some of that darker green showing up there along the I-71 corridor, and rainfall amounts not expecting overly impressive amounts by several inches of rain, but a half an inch to an inch not out of the question here from Wednesday night through Thursday. And then that all clears out of here by Thursday night into Friday. Still a couple showers around. We'll have to watch that for Friday, but chances are down to about 30% as the bulk of the rain happens during the day Thursday. But after that, we get another surge of some cooler air. It's going to be more fall-like here by the upcoming weekend. We get temperatures down into the 60s and 70s for highs, overnight lows down into the 40s, well below normal here for the first week of September. But today, it's pretty close to where we should be. Average highs 82, we'll be at 81 for this afternoon under a mostly sunny sky. And then tonight, mostly clear skies and 56 for a low with light winds at about 5 to 10 miles per hour here out of the east. And as we head through our 7-day forecast, still tracking low 80s for tomorrow, even into Wednesday. As I mentioned, most of the day is looking dry here for your Wednesday, but a couple showers, maybe a thunderstorm could be possible here by the evening hours. That chance will continue into Wednesday night and then really going up here for Thursday. And that's why our high temperature is only at 68 degrees with the clouds and the rain around. And then by Friday, we do see a little bit of a warm up back to 74 and the slight chance for a couple of showers. But then as we head into the upcoming weekend, those temperatures are dropping down to the low 70s, still tracking a lot of sunshine here for the upcoming weekend, and then overnight lows actually get back down into the 40s. So a nice, another nice taste of some fall-like conditions here as we head into the weekend. But we are going to be watching that rain very closely here as we head into our Thursday, but also something that's been happening the last couple of days, including yesterday. Heavy downpours in Houston on Sunday actually left drivers stranded as roads were underwater and even some residents cleaning up the damage inside their homes. The storms actually dumped several inches of rain across the city beginning late in the morning, and then the move from the north. Slow-moving rain just caused a lot of problems there around the Houston metro, and some flooding actually reported on some of the major freeways, not even just in the Houston metro, but other parts of Texas recording 2 to 5 inches of rainfall here over the weekend. Now, also in this week's Climate Watch report, FEMA has suspended employees who warned that proposed cuts could actually weaken the country's disaster response. Here's Dan Kleffer with more.
We're keeping an eye on the climate. Here's what you need to know. FEMA has suspended nearly 40 employees who signed a letter warning Congress that President Trump's proposed cuts could weaken the nation's disaster response. The letter, sent just days before the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, criticized the move to downsize FEMA and shift more responsibility to states. Staffers who signed their names on the letter were placed on paid leave until further notice. Meanwhile, a federal judge has shut down a migrant detention facility in southern Florida dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. The court found the government failed to conduct required environmental reviews, including assessing impacts on endangered species like the Florida panther. The Miccosukee tribe and several nonprofits sued, and the judge ruled in their favor, noting that the project threatened long-standing efforts to protect the Everglades. And finally, new research shows even sharks are feeling the effects of climate change. As oceans grow more acidic, scientists found shark teeth become weaker and are more likely to break. Sharks regrow teeth constantly, but scientists warn that may not be enough in more acidic seas, potentially weakening hunting abilities and triggering ripple effects across marine food chains. That's your Climate Watch. For the latest on climate and environmental news, go to cbsnews.com and follow us on Instagram at CBS News Planet. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.
And something also happening here this week as we are kicking off September. Later on tonight, there's actually a chance that we could see the Northern Lights. We had 2 spectacular showings of them back in 2024. One solar storm that occurred in May, and then another one that actually happened back in October of 2024, leading to the Northern Lights being seen across the state of Ohio and really a large part of the country. So let's talk about what's going on and actually what causes the Northern Lights to form. And it's all related to some of the solar energy that actually comes from the sun and then interacts with the magnetic field of the Earth. So we have this burst of solar energy, and that's actually what happened just in the last 24 to 36 hours here over the weekend. There was a big burst of energy, and that's been traveling through space. And as that energy reaches the field, it causes these disruptions known as a geomagnetic storm. And that's actually what leads to the Northern Lights, all these different charged particles interacting with the field, leading to all the different colors that we get to see and enjoy here, the greens and some of the reds. So as we look at the overall forecast now, It's not as high as what we saw back in 2024 with those two different events. Those actually reach what we call as G4 storm levels, and right now the predictions are for about G2 to G3. So that would lead to at least a lower end potential for us here in Ohio to see the northern lights at least lower on the horizon, not right overhead, but lower on the horizon, and may actually be hard to see with your eyes. So you're going to want to give your eyes time to adjust to the darkness. If you're out for 10 to 15 minutes, don't look at your phone, just don't look at any lights, just look towards the sky, and then you may start to see them a little bit faintly on the horizon. And then of course, if you want to see them better, if you have a smartphone, one of the newer ones, you can actually do a long exposure photo and actually see them as the light gets taken in over the course of that few seconds of an exposure on your phone. But better chances are going to be further north across the upper Midwest, as they typically see them in the Dakotas and parts of Minnesota here as we head into tonight. So we'll be watching that here for you with your 10 weather impact team as we go through really the next 24 hours. If we don't see them tonight, there could still be another chance of seeing them by tomorrow night. Now, as today is September 1st, actually on today's date, back in 1985, the wreck of the RMS Titanic was discovered about 12,500 feet below the surface of the North Atlantic by an international team led by Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and a French team that actually found the wreck there back in 1985. The expedition was led by Robert Ballard, then head of the WHO's Deep Submersible Lab, that used innovative technology and search techniques to really just discover what was going on there at the depths of the ocean with the deep sea exploration and discovery. Now, in the summer of 1985, Ballard and his crew quietly set out for the North Atlantic on the Navy-owned research vessel NOR with new technologies to survey the wreckage of the USS Scorpion, a nuclear submarine lost at sea in 1968. However, in the early morning hours of September 1st, after less than a week of scouring the seafloor for trails of debris, his fatigue team recognized one of Titanic's boilers and then followed the trail of debris to the north, leading them to the wreck itself, Titanic, after 73 years lying at the bottom of the North Atlantic. So rather a spectacular find there again back in 1985. 40 years ago today, they found the remains of the RMS Titanic. So that'll do it for us here today with all your weather that we've been tracking here for the last couple of days. Again, all the sunshine that we have in the forecast still today. Get outside, make a plan to enjoy it today, tomorrow, even into Wednesday before we track the rain. But hey, as you saw with the weekend forecast, it's still looking nice. So make a plan for the weekend with those cooler temperatures, with those highs in the low 70s here by Saturday and Sunday. So that'll do it for us here today on the Weather Impact Show. Coming up later on tonight, Chief Meteorologist Jerry Marks will be in with the latest weather forecast. So until then, you can catch more news and weather online at 10tv.com.
Tonight in Boomtown, childcare is a tough thing to find for many parents, and for those going to school, it can be even tougher. 10 TV's Colin Dorsey has a look at a plan for downtown Columbus that could help ease the burden.
This vast parking lot at the corner of Cleveland and Long could be the next site of a YMCA for downtown Columbus. The 50,000 square foot facility would house a gym, a swimming pool, and maybe most importantly, child care for student parents at Columbus State Community College. The $38 million price tag would be split between the YMCA of Central Ohio and Columbus State. If this project moves forward, Columbus State students will have access to up to 5 hours a day of free licensed childcare at no extra cost. They can simply drop off their child and go to classes. Both organizations say this would not only be a big win for parents trying to get a degree, but also the downtown community.
We see what the energy that's happening in downtown Columbus right now with people coming back to work. Also with the number of residents growing in downtown Columbus, it's an exciting time to be there.
How much is childcare factored into that decision for parents to come back?
It factors in tremendously. We estimate 1 in 4 of our student population is parenting in some way, maybe not directly.
If this project moves forward, it also marks the YMCA's return to downtown Columbus. The YMCA moved out of its old building at Front and Long about 5 years ago. And there are still a couple hurdles for this project to clear. First, Columbus State students have to vote on it. And if they approve it, then it goes to the Board of Trustees and on to the Ohio Department of Education. In downtown Columbus, Colin Dorsey, 10 TV News.